What could possibly drive a woman to kill her very own husband? This chilling question marks the beginning of our journey into the heart of a mystery that rocked Western Australia. The story revolves around Chamari Liyanage, a respected doctor, and her husband Dinendra Athukorala, both natives of Sri Lanka, who had made Australia their home. In the early hours of the 24th of June 2014, a call was made to the police. The news was shocking. Dinendra was found dead in their apartment, and the person who discovered the body, the person who called the police, was none other than his wife, Chamari. But this was no ordinary case of home invasion gone wrong, or a tragic accident. The circumstances pointed towards something far more sinister. From the outset, it was clear that Dinendra had not met his end at the hands of a stranger. The evidence suggested a chilling reality. Chamari, his wife, was the likely perpetrator. This revelation sent ripples through the community. How could a woman, a healer by profession, be capable of such an act? It seemed unthinkable, and yet, the facts were undeniable. Dinendra was dead, and his wife was the prime suspect. But what could have led to such a drastic action? What were the circumstances that drove Chamari to this dire extreme? For over 4 years, they had been in a marital relationship. Was there something lurking beneath the surface of their seemingly ordinary lives that could explain this shocking incident? As we delve deeper into this case, we will strive to unravel the tangled web of events leading up to that fateful day. We will explore the lives of Chamari and Dinendra, the dynamics of their relationship, and the circumstances that culminated in a tragic end. We will examine the aftermath of the crime, the investigation that followed, and the court proceedings that sought to bring justice to this complex case. The question that begs to be answered is, what led to these dire circumstances? As we venture forward, let's keep an open mind and a keen eye. For this is a journey into the unknown, a path into the heart of a mystery that continues to baffle and intrigue. To understand the present, we must delve into the past. Let's rewind the clock to a time before the headlines, before the crime. Chamari Liyanage, a woman of intelligence and ambition, had carved a niche for herself in Western Australia's medical sector. As a doctor, she touched countless lives, healing wounds and soothing pains. But behind the professional facade, she was a woman ensnared in a relationship that was anything but healthy. Chamari was married to Dinendra Athukorala, a fellow Sri Lankan native who shared her profession but not her kindness. From the outside, they may have seemed like the perfect couple, two accomplished doctors building a life together in a land far from home. But behind closed doors, the reality was a stark contrast to this picturesque image. Their marriage was a tumultuous storm, a battleground where love was replaced by fear and respect by domination. Dinendra was not just a husband, he was an oppressor, a man who wielded control like a weapon, holding Chamari hostage in her own home. For over 4 years, Chamari was subjected to an escalating cycle of abuse, a relentless torment that left her feeling trapped and helpless. Her dreams of a happy married life had morphed into a chilling nightmare. She was living a dual life, a respected doctor by day and a victim of domestic abuse by night. The personal hell she was enduring was hidden behind a mask of normalcy, a mask she wore not by choice but by compulsion. It's crucial to remember that Chamari was not just a wife or a doctor, but a human being. A human being subjected to unbearable suffering, her spirit chipped away bit by bit with each passing day. Living under the constant shadow of fear and humiliation, she was pushed to the edge, teetering on the brink of despair. Abuse, whether physical or emotional, can push even the strongest among us to a breaking point. For Chamari, that breaking point culminated in a tragic end, a gruesome act that would forever change the course of her life. With such a troubled past, one can only wonder what the breaking point was for Chamari. On that fateful day, a life was ended, and another was forever changed. In the early morning hours of June 24, 2014, an eerie silence hung over a small apartment in Western Australia. The calm was shattered when the piercing ring of a phone call to the police broke the quiet. The voice on the other end of the line was none other than Dr. Chamari Liyanage, a respected physician and a Sri Lankan native. She reported a chilling discovery: the lifeless body of her husband, Dinendra. The scene that greeted the police was one of horror and sadness. Dinendra, also a doctor, lay dead in their shared living space. A grim picture began to emerge, the details of which would shock and sadden a community. The evidence at the crime scene pointed to one unavoidable conclusion. Chamari Liyanage, a woman known for her medical expertise and compassion, was the prime suspect in her husband's death. The brutality of the crime was in stark contrast to Chamari's character, yet the evidence was undeniable. The murder weapon, a mallet, was found in the apartment, its presence suggesting a crime of passion and desperation. The absence of a break-in coupled with Chamari's presence at the scene and her distress call to the police further cemented her role in this horrifying event. The autopsy report painted an even darker picture. Dinendra had succumbed to blunt force trauma, the force of the blow demonstrating a level of rage and intensity that suggested a personal connection to the perpetrator. The final piece of the puzzle was Chamari's admission. She didn't deny her involvement, but instead, she spoke of years of torment and abuse that she endured in her marriage. The community was left reeling from the revelation. How could a woman, a healer, capable of such a horrific act? As the news spread, the image of Chamari Liyanage transformed. No longer was she just a respected physician, but a woman pushed to the brink, accused of a crime most couldn't fathom. A once respected doctor now stood accused of the unthinkable. With the crime committed, the wheels of justice began to turn. Chamari Liyanage, a respected doctor and a Sri Lankan native living in Australia, found herself ensnared in a web of law enforcement and legal proceedings. The home she once knew transformed into a chilling crime scene overnight, and she was no longer a victim, but a suspect. Her arrest was swift, the echoes of her emergency call still lingering in the air. The police, having found her husband Dinendra dead in their apartment, had little choice but to arrest Chamari. It was a grim turn of events for a woman who had suffered silently in an abusive relationship for over 4 years. As news of the crime broke, it sent shockwaves across the nation. The media swarmed like bees to honey, their cameras trained on the quiet apartment building, their headlines screaming about the doctor turned alleged murderer. Every detail of Chamari's life was laid bare for public consumption, her pain and struggle packaged neatly for evening news. The public, in turn, was split. Some saw a murderer, while others saw a victim pushed to her limits. The trial that followed was a spectacle in its own right. Lawyers presented their cases, weaving a story of domestic abuse, control, and finally, a fatal culmination. Chamari, once a respected doctor, sat in the defendant's chair, her face a mask of stoicism. Even in the heart of the storm she held steadfast, her quiet resilience a stark contrast to the media circus outside. As the trial progressed, it became clear that this was not a simple case of murder. It was a narrative of a woman trapped, a story of desperation and survival. The courtroom became a stage where the grim reality of domestic abuse was on full display, forcing society to confront an issue often swept under the rug. And so, Chamari found herself at the mercy of the courts, her fate hanging in the balance. The gavel fell, the echoes reverberating through the courtroom, a reminder of the long road to justice that still lay ahead. In the court of law, judgment awaits. As we draw the curtain back on this compelling narrative, it's crucial to revisit the significant points that led us here. Chamari Liyanage, a doctor by profession, found herself entrapped in a marital relationship, riddled with abuse and torment. The early morning of June 24, 2014, marked a grim turning point in her life. Her husband Dinendra was found dead in their apartment, and it was crystal clear that Chamari was the one who had ended his life. Chamari, a woman who had devoted her life to saving others, had now become intertwined with a crime that shook not only her world, but the entire community. The question that echoed in the halls of justice was not who did it, but why. What led this seemingly ordinary woman to take such a drastic step? The court's decision was awaited with bated breath. The verdict, when it came, was a reflection of the complex nature of the case. Chamari was found guilty of manslaughter, but was spared the charge of murder. The court recognized that she had been living under duress, subjected to an abusive relationship. It was this continuous torment that was considered to have driven her to take such a drastic step. While the sentence of 4 years may have seemed lenient to some, it was a significant acknowledgement of the circumstances that led her to this point. The court's verdict was not just about punishing a crime, it was about understanding the conditions that had led to the crime. It was a verdict that highlighted the importance of mental health and the destructive potential of abusive relationships. The implications for Chamari were far-reaching. Not only was her freedom curtailed, but her professional reputation was irreparably tarnished. Her journey from a respected doctor to a convicted criminal was a tragic downfall that sent ripples through the community. And with that, the final chapter in Chamari Liyanage's tragic tale was written.